Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. Sometimes what looks like a picture-perfect life on the outside hides an entirely different story behind closed doors. And sometimes the journey through heartbreak, public pressure, and deep personal trials becomes the very path that leads to purpose, healing, and redemption. And so I feel like my guest today really embodies all of this, and you guys are going to get to hear from her and her story and what she's doing now. But before we do that, as we always do, we need to do a quick shout out for our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, of course, I want to make one more mention, and that is to be sure you head over to startergirlz.com. And why do I always send everybody over there? For a couple reasons. One, if you missed an episode, it's a great place to catch up. It's also where you can keep up with all of our news and what's happening, and you can sign up and be in the know. But also, we have a great quiz over there, and it's so fun. I built it, so you want to check it out. It's a success block quiz. It's a 2-minute quiz that will actually tell you what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success. So if you want to take that quiz, head on over to startergirlz.com, and you can do that there. All right, so today's guest, Eileen Noyes, has lived in the spotlight as the wife of a former NFL athlete, but behind the glitz was a woman quietly losing herself. After her marriage publicly fell apart, Eileen became a single mother to 8 children and began a journey that would redefine her faith, her identity, and her purpose. Now remarried and raising a blended family of 15 children with her husband, Michael, Eileen is the founder of Lady Bellator, a powerful movement that helps women rise from the sidelines of life and reclaim their identity, voice, and dreams. As an author, speaker, mentor, and coach, she shares God's redemptive power through her books, including Sidelined No More, Broken Chapters, and her latest, Rise Up Lady Bellator. Eileen's mission is clear: to help women pursue their dreams without guilt or shame and to live in the fullness of who God created them to be. So Eileen, welcome to the Starter Girlz Show. We are so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. What a great intro. It's always good to get pumped up. Thank you.
So Eileen, one of the things, I always like to start this show off because I feel like the whole premise of Starter Girlz is all about showing how we change the trajectory of our lives. And that's what I love about the storytelling is that everybody that comes on here, I feel like has had to make some choice to do something different in their life. And some of us have, really profound stories, and some it may be career shifts, marital shifts, health shifts, whatever that is. And so you have obviously made shifts in your life to get to where you are today. And so I kind of want to start there. My audience doesn't know who you are yet. And by the we get done, at the end of this, I hope they're going to know who Eileen Noyes is. But I want you to take us back to what brought you to this place that you are today.
Sure. Well, it's funny that you call it, that your show's called Starter Girlz. So when I think of starter, I think of sports. So the thing with me is I was an NFL wife. That was back in the early 2000s. So before that, actually, I worked with athletics. I played volleyball. I was on the shorter side, which made me very focused on the strength part and jumping higher and all those things. So I had to work on my disadvantages. I had to strengthen those things. So I was a strength coach and I worked with all the athletes. And then there was a complete shift from seeing hundreds of people every day, knowing my purpose, to then stopping everything, putting my life on hold to support my spouse. And so that's what I did. He got drafted to Green Bay. I followed the year after, and life was completely different. So it started there. And, it's just that acclimating to all of a sudden, it was like, it's like life kind of went and it went on a path of its own. So, here a strength coach, I had purpose, all these things. And all of a sudden I really felt like, you're the wife of, and it's just over and over. You're the wife of, and the Green Bay that's everything. Football is everything. So I felt like I stepped into a green and gold world that, it was just nothing like I've ever known before. So it just kind of started there. And so long story short, we were ones who shared our faith. So he's a very outspoken Christian man. We shared our faith with the team. We brought them to different outreaches, sports outreaches that had to do with like couples getting better, encouraging people to have kids. And we were very big in the community. Well, after, about 8 years after he was done with in the league, so he played for 9 years, which is a long time. He shifted his beliefs to one that was not part of our vows. And so it was, going from our Christian foundation of marriage to all of a sudden polygamy was okay, because I wore makeup and because I didn't have a t-shirt and long skirt and head cover. I was a Jezebel. The kids and I were property. So it was a complete 180 from what we knew. And so I came to a crossroads, and all this under wraps, because I didn't know who to share it with. It was, God, how do I navigate through this? Like, what is going on? I want to be a good wife, but this is not what we agreed on. And
Right.
so it was about 3 or 4 years in private, kind of. Really, I had only told 5 girls. And so they were the ones that helped me navigate through. And, after that, I had come to terms with, okay, he wanted to take us to this actual cult that was based out in Tennessee. And I just knew this was not something that we could do. And so we stepped away. We actually had an escape plan. We had to leave our home. We stepped away in the hopes that he would come back around, that he would see what was on the line, and he never did. And so his belief system has taken him to where, more than one wife is okay. He now has, that's what's going on. There's no relationship, no contact right now with the kids, very minimal. And it's never it's not relational or anything like that. But I really had to set the tone for my kids of forgiveness, of choosing joy, of not playing victim. I just knew that I was in this position, and so much comes spiritually. I can't even separate that my job is to take care of these kids. Their lives, they have purpose. They have, plan. God has plans for them. And so I just knew it was such a significant thing to keep pushing through all that crazy to give them the life and the upbringing, and the drive to continue pushing through adversity, that, life is happening, even in all this, life is happening for them, not to them. And so that's, in a super nutshell version, that's what happened.
Oh, give me
Is-
chills.
Yeah, life
Yeah.
just shifted for me, and
Mhm.
I'm super thankful. And that whole thing, if you take that pro sports world, that it looks from the outside, it looks like such glitz and glamour.
Right.
And it's definitely a part of it, but it's not all of it. And so my heart is to see that those women who are in those hard seasons, they have an outlet. They have someone to talk to, because mine is not an isolated incident. There's 4 women whose husbands, or now ex-husbands, have joined the cult. That was 7-8 years ago. This is still happening now, to where just the fact that they see or hear my story, they know to come to someone. And it's
Yeah.
there's 2 that are going through it right now in a
Wow.
different kind of cult situation. So that's my heart, is to help them. Again, not in just those tough situations, but even the healthiest of marriages, people that are been part of the NFL world, there's just place and this feeling of, I'm suffering in silence because of the expectations, and because of
Right.
the holding it in, because, there's one girl, she's like, I had to hold everything in because people were telling me, don't stress out your husband. It's like, he's got to focus. He's got to, just be ready for the game. And so she just felt like she stuffed all her emotions to it. Literally, it just was affecting her health. So it's such a wide range of, people that they're just different dynamics to that
Yeah.
world that people just don't know. So I just wanted to not just expose it for the sake of exposing it, but to really be like, hey, I want to be that outlet, because I know I didn't have it. I didn't have anybody to help me navigate through, and I know that's being, a couple steps ahead, seeing what they don't see yet, to be able to help them be proactive is something that I'm really, desiring to do.
Yeah, there's like my head as you're talking, and like there's so many things with this, right? Like so many angles here, because it's like not only are you dealing, we're talking about humans here, right? And humans are complex, right? So we're talking about there's this whole idea of you've got this like basically crisis in your world, but you are in a position too where you can't make a big scene. Like you're trying to hide this from the public, and you're dealing with all this internally, and it's like, what do you do? Like, what's the right thing to do? Right. Like, you don't know in the moment. And so I say to you, that it's admirable that you found that way, right? Like you found that way out of that, because I think that would be hard for any human being outside of the NFL dealing with what you dealt with, period. And you had all these kiddos too. You had these children that you had to think about first and foremost, and to make sure that they're in good space, safe, and all of those things. And I love that you said, the happening for them and not to them thing, because that is something, oh my gosh, like, I'm thinking about John Maxwell, his book, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And he talks about, is it happening to you or through you? And it's something that I've talked to, like I've had that conversation with my son. I've had it with my husband before. Like, is something happening to you or through you? Is it for you? Like what, how we look at things. So it's so admirable that you've been able to, push through that, weather through that, and where you are now. I mean, just think about that. You've got a voice now. And it's giving you the ability now to hopefully help these other women that are navigating this, this space, to know that, hey, here's somebody who's actually weathered through this and come out on the other side. Yeah. So, powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been it's not been easy. And then the thing, if we're talking about the desire to, push ahead. So here I'm stay-home mom for 20 plus years. Had one full-time job before I got married. And so then to navigate through, I just like writing. I've always, that's just always been in me. And it's funny because I knew that as a writer, when I felt like it was time to finally write, I honestly thought, all right, this is going to be a memoir. This is going to be all the things that I went through, and not in a bashing way, but it was like this, usually when you hear, especially in the limelight, you hear, like what they do is like they lift you up. Yeah. And then when things go crazy, they highlight that too. And then all of a sudden it's like, you don't hear about anything anymore. And I just wanted to be like, wait, hold on here. Hey, things are okay.
Yeah. I survived.
Yeah. It's not like, just like too bad, a tragedy. I mean, and for sure that's definitely a part of it. But I remember, thinking, okay, I'm going to write this book. And I felt something in me say, no, you can't go full throttle on telling everybody everything that happened, because it's going to freak people out. And so this first book, it was to the pro athlete wives to say, hey, I understand that there's a transition going into the game. There's relationship dynamics and the fans and the cheating and all that people don't understand. Like, how do you navigate through that? How are you his number one fan while still telling him, hey, honey, can you hang out with the kids? Can you pay the bills? Can you take out the trash? Can we hang out? There's that. There's the expectations of family and the money, and especially like seeing all this with like the draft going on. I see it through a different lens. I know it's like such a great, exciting thing for everybody, but to know that on the other side of those celebrations there's going to be crossroads of hard relationship dynamics, a lot of like, relationship breakdowns. So there's that. I know I had a shopping addiction because I lacked purpose. It was my way of numbing things and just kind of being in that world of feeling like this is the expectation of how you're supposed to look and all those things. And then that transition of the game, out of the game, which is super hard, not only for her, but obviously for him. I don't think there's a grieving and a there may be some things out there, but it's hard. Not everybody goes into commentating or coaching, and that's what people just assume. So in writing that and doing all those things, like, it's hard. I self-published. So so it's just hard. It's like the writer part of me and that part is easy, but to go out there and kind of, you have to sell yourself in a way. And that's definitely not easy for me, doing all the things, the marketing, the promoting, all those initials at one point. I think I'm getting them all, but when you hear ROI or the TRM, I'm like, what is this stuff? So getting into this world of entrepreneurship, which I really didn't even care for that word. I thought just ticker and motivated by money. But to see that an entrepreneur is someone who sees a problem and wants to solve it and wants to fill a need. When I saw it from that point of view, it changed everything for me. And so I'm just pushing through because I'm in the early stages. I'm doing some, I think sometimes I have to, I do, just like every person, you have to celebrate your wins. And sometimes I don't, it's like I wrote a book and I'm like, okay, next. I wrote a book next, because that's just my mentality, especially with a lot of kids. But to be able to celebrate those things and to like, just smell the roses and then go, okay, like, it's okay. Like there's lulls and it's this process and there's trials. And so I'm pushing through in a whole different way where even in marriage, there's things that have been just as challenging, if not more challenging, and crazy to say, than the actual going through all that cold stuff, the first time around. So it's life.
Yeah. And, I feel like listening to you and we have very different lives, but there's so many things you said there that I think as entrepreneurs, we all sort of feel like. I self-published my book as well. And when I wrote my book, many of the people listening to these episodes know my story, but when I wrote that book, mine was really probably similarly to yours, kind of a cathartic release. I don't even know, or I didn't care about making money. Really, it was really, I just wanted to write to document what I had gone through. Completely different story from yours. So I don't ever like to diminish anybody's story. But I think where I'm listening to your heart is when you're talking about like ROI, like I get it. I want to say I get it because I've had to really, like I spent 22 years in Mary Kay, in leadership in Mary Kay. And then I had a health crisis that forced me to shift directions. And then I ended up after 22 years leaving and forming a new business and going into a whole nother field when that was all I had known from the time I was in my late 20s up until almost my late 50s now. And so, I hear these things and I want to say to you, I think these are like things we go through as entrepreneurs, this whole talking about marketing yourself and really putting yourself out there. And just to your point, also a stay-at-home mom for 20-something years. My kids are all grown now, but I've never worked outside of the home since true story, since I wasn't let me take it this way. I was an aerobics instructor for a while. So I did work at battles. I did work at some clubs. So I did get a paycheck up until about 2004. But I haven't had a real like corporate job since 1996, if that tells you anything. So I wouldn't even know what to do at this point. I'm in my early 50s now, what to even do if I had to go back out into the workforce to do an actual, like, I don't know where they hire me, like at Target or something. Yeah. I could do, you know what I mean? Sure. And so I want to say all that to say to you, not to say anything like diminish you, but to say, I hear you. And I feel what you're talking about and the pain with that. But I think, again, it goes back to look at where you are now. I mean, I think that all of these things that you had have given you this voice now to be able to, you've got a purpose and a passion, right? And all this money, I think that money all comes with that purpose and that passion that you have, but also addressing those pain points that those people have, right? Like knowing where those people are coming from.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, I look at, I don't want to say competitors, but what you're looking at, what's out there. And so there are different groups that, it's like, how do you connect? Like, are you going to somehow do something together? And as I'm observing, I'm seeing that what I do and what they do. So there's just two particular groups that I know. There may be more, but there's women of the NFL and there's off the field. Those are two organizations those are the only two organizations that I know in regards to, pro sports or pro football. And, I see that the season that they're highlighting is different than mine. So, as I'm looking and I'm thinking like, why do I have to do this? It's already out there. Well, then as these specific women are coming to me, when you get discouraged and you want to quit, but then there's always those things that, I know it's from God. I just feel like someone will call and go, thank you so much that you're doing this. Like, this is such a need. Like, I am realizing that what I thought I was just going through by myself, this whole thing of this theme where I felt like I was going through healing and freedom. I'm realizing that that is going to be a big foundational thing for these women. A lot of times we try to go push through and do career stuff and do, the bigger things, but we've got blind spots and we've got different things because we're not healed. And so to me, I'm just thinking, I want to get to those places. Like, let me give you an example. So I have a podcast now too. And as it's getting out there, there's different women from sports have been saying like, oh, I want to get on. I want to share my story. Yeah. And I really have to be discerning about it because I don't want it to be a bash session. I want it to be, well, hey, like I thought I have some compassion for my ex, and I have forgiven him. And I had to go through a huge layer of forgiveness of not even realizing that I didn't even allow myself to feel the emotion of all that stuff and all those things. But there's a place of just healing and maturity that goes along with your whatever it is you're doing. So I had to go, okay, time out, like let's get you healed so that because you're going to see with fresh eyes your situation, all those circumstances, you're going to see them in totally different eyes a year from now, 2 years from now. And so I had to really, just think about that and reflect on that and know that, gosh, this is part of the process, not only for me, but for these women. Like, hey, let's get you some healing. Like, this one is way fresher for you. So let's not just, go out there and just say something that you'll regret later on. So there's just different parts. But anyways, it's just like, you're just seeing that for me, that super small niche that I'm trying to reach is even smaller than what I, anticipated.
Yeah. There's great takeaways from that because, in listening to that, I mean, it's the same thing, I think, for really all of us as podcasters should be thinking that way about who we bring on. I mean, there's a takeaway in that, right? Like being selective about who you bring on because you're trying to look for a certain, whether it's a demographic or a type of whatever it is that you're looking for your podcast. And I do think, that comes in with, the boundaries and really defining what you want and who you're looking for, but also in your conversation here, talking about that forgiveness piece, right? Like, I think that's a huge piece. And what you're kind of alluding to here is this idea that it's kind of like the way I put it is when I wrote my book, when I wrote my book in 2019, I was fresh out of a 4-year medical crisis with a disease that they call a suicide disease. It's extremely painful. And I have a very different view then than I do now. Same thing with my ex-husband that I had, when I married at 19. I have a very different view now. In fact, I saw my parents this weekend and they're like, hey, have you ever, okay, and now let me back up. I've been married now for 29 years. That guy I was married to for 3 years, we divorced in 92. I don't know where this guy is. I don't care. But my dad asked me the other day, he's like, do you know where he is now? And I'm like, no, I don't really care. I mean, but the funny thing is, if I were to see him today, if there's no emotion, there'd be no hate, there'd be no whatever, right? Because it's over it. But when it happened, I hated the guy. Like, I hated this guy, right? So there's something about that whole healing process, right? And I think when you're saying, when you come from a place of healing, you can look at things more objectively, right? You can look at the overall picture here. And I just think in that process, you allow yourself, like you said, to forgive yourself too, right? Like you can't look at that fresh until you make that forgiveness for both the person, Victor, right? And the victim, like whatever aspect that is that you're looking at. So I think you're right in doing that. And it's good. And I had a girl on my show way back when on this Starter Girlz show. It was one of my very first episodes when I brought my second co-host on. She was also a former NFL football wife. And she had a really, I need to connect you to. She had a really good story. But the thing I'm bringing her up now is she's doing phenomenal. I mean, she's got just doing really, really well. And at the time that she came on, but she's a beautiful girl. And I need to connect you to. As you were talking, I'm like, I totally need to connect you to because you will love her. I still follow her, but yeah, she was a fun episode. And I can't remember all of her story. I don't know if there was some views, but I do remember her talking a little bit about getting lost in this whole process of being this NFL wife and the glamour of this and how we perceive, see it on the outside, but it's not, when you're on the other side of it, it's like, right, the grass isn't always greener on the other side kind of thing, right?
Oh,
right.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think, yeah, and it's how you perceive it. It's how you just receive it, because I've learned, especially now, like that time frame of hearing all the fans and all the expectations, whether it be from family, whether it be from, just different, you see things on what they say about him, that, it could have been, I could have been easily offended by those things, or I could have gotten caught up in someone saying this and someone saying that. And I made that choice back then. I'm not going to let this stuff get to me. I mean, I saw how there were certain people, there was a situation where we were out to dinner with another couple, and kids and things like that. They kept asking for autographs. And I saw this girl just seething. And I saw how it created tension in our dinner and between them as a couple. And I was like, gosh, there's certain things that we can't control. We can't control the fans coming. We can say no, but they're going to come, And so I just didn't want that. That was just very significant for me to say, I don't want that. Well, here with all the fans and all those things, fast forward to when things went down with my ex, when we stepped away, that was me being completely quiet and not knowing what was going on. And I come back, so I'm gone for 40 days with my kids. We're just, my ex didn't know where we were. We felt like we had to bring them back to school. And I come back and I look like the crazy person. So all these stories have been said about me, all these YouTube, then we're talking like, if you Google me or my ex, there's over 300 videos of how I, tore my house down and how I was the gold digger and I never loved my spouse. All these things are on YouTube. So where like people talking about me and my name being like just gone through the ringer, to be able to, I mean, it's just like a preparation. Like, you know what? I don't need to be focused on what people say. I know the truth. The truth sets me free. And I'm not going to sit here and defend myself. I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm just going to stay laser focused on what I need to do. And that's, stay close to God, raise my kids and do what I'm called to do. And so I see all that as kind of training ground for the real hard stuff that came my way.
Yeah. Wow. And I just, it's like crazy to me to think that you had to go through that. Cause it's interesting. Yeah. You see, like when I think about, like being in the limelight, I mean, let's back this up. Let's remove this to like say somebody trying to build like their YouTube page or their podcast page, remove this out. Like I had a girl on my show a few weeks ago she's an amputee, and she started doing her social media. She was tracking, she's a paradressage, which is Paralympics horse riding. And so I had no idea. I had to look that up. I didn't know what it was. I had to go look it up. But she started documenting 8 years ago this journey that she's doing. Well, now she's built her social media, her Instagram page up to like almost 200,000 followers, right? And you think about somebody now, like you're in the entrepreneur space now, building a podcast. And so think about like where we are as entrepreneurs, right? We're like trying to build our audience and all of that, right? And we got into this whole conversation about kind of what you're talking about in a different way about social media and the hate messages and how people would send her. And I'm thinking this poor girl, she is an amputee, and all she's doing right now is really just trying to be an advocate for disabilities, right? Disabilities. And she gets these hate messages from people. And we had the whole conversation about like how you have to have thick skin, right? And I'm thinking the entire time, like, do you want this? Like, do you really want this in your life? Because here we are building our business and we're building podcasts up, right? Like, and I'm talking to my YouTube guy and we're talking about getting clicks on videos, and I'm having this internal dialogue with, I don't care if those videos go viral. Like, I just want it to hit the right people because I don't want all that mess. I don't want all that garbage from these crazy people out there, right? Like, because I don't know about you, but I just don't have the energy for it. Like, I don't have the patience or the energy. So I listen to this and I think, gosh, that has to be so hard to be in those positions where you have no control of that. And you just got crazy people out there just putting garbage out there, the unfactual information about you out there. And you just got to basically put the blinders on and just ignore it. You know, you just have to have thick skin. You
You definitely have to trade, for that, because it was hard. I remember going, okay, I don't want to fight, but that's not true, and that's not true, and I just want to defend myself.
It's just like, and people don't know, right? They don't know, you know, and I don't know about you, but the whole integrity thing just makes me crazy, you know, and that's what it is. It's about the how do we get the clicks? Talk about things that are, you know, are going to get people's attention, you know, and it just makes me crazy. It's admirable. Like I said, I'm so glad you're on the other side of this. That's all I got to say. You are definitely an inspiration for other women that are going through what you're doing, but even people out there that are trying to, you know, weather through that, and just in helping give people the ear that sometimes you do. You just got to put those blinders on and stay true to your purpose and your calling and your truth. Okay. So awesome, Eileen. You're doing awesome stuff. So here's what I do want to ask for somebody. We've talked a lot about, you know, the NFL life and your book, and then, you know, what brought you to this place. But I want to focus on the entrepreneur side of this, because you did write this book. You've got this podcast you're doing. We've talked a lot about, you know, we mentioned the ROI and really moving into that space where we got to think about, okay, the business part of things. So maybe, you know, what advice would you lend somebody that is maybe, I don't know, maybe they're coming from the corporate space, or maybe they're like you and I, they're in the, you know, stay-at-home mom space, and they're moving into this entrepreneur space. What's something maybe you would lend them as advice?
Well, a couple of things is, one, keep pushing through, staying positive and getting with people that have gone before you. So for me, I think that's been a hard thing is, you know, going into the entrepreneurship world, there was a blanket entrepreneurship, which for me at that time was great. You know, just understanding what all that meant. Like I said, you know, just helping people out. But you know, I felt like there was a lull because I was in these big general groups that, you know, they were talking about their own businesses, and I just felt like, okay, let me glean as much as I can, but I need someone to help me step into really honing in on, you know, for me, it's reaching them. It's establishing things so I could start coaching. It's very specific stuff. And I wouldn't have known, I probably would still be floating around if I didn't connect with people that have gone before me who I can really pick their brains. And again, that, you know, that thing of being positive. Here's another thing. For those who are stay-at-home moms, and just like you and I think the one big thing is seeing that you have what it takes, because it's easy to like disqualify ourselves and say, okay, I don't have you know, I don't have this degree, or I don't have this license, or I don't have like a resume. But I know that as a stay-at-home mom, there are so many skills of what we've gone through. And I don't know if your listeners, if you're going to tell us your audience, but just the whole thing of like being flexible and anything goes. We've had fun, you know, internet issues probably on my side, but there's so many things that, we've learned so many things to just shift on a dime, or, you know, like, to learn to, for me, I have these divide and conquer type of mentalities, because it's easy to get overwhelmed. But when you're a stay-at-home mom, there's just something in you that just has to find the answers. And so I just think, stay-at-home mom, you have all the things. You have a CEO mentality in a lot of ways. So don't like underestimate those things. So those are my big tips.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You know, it's interesting because, you know, having been in the network marketing space for so long, you know, I built out this program, and it was so crazy because when I built it out, it really had the mindset of, you know, like people ask me, like, who is it for? Well, it's really for any female entrepreneur, any of them. But a lot of it, when I was building it out, I really had that mom in my mind, because I knew what it was like working that business, you know, with an 18-month-old, and then having another baby, and then having another, and going through navigating those spaces all the way from babies in diapers to young, you know, toddlers to young age, middle school, high school. And now we're in young adult, you know, age, which is a whole nother damn in itself. Right. But you are so right. And just in case in point, it's just today in our podcast episode, we have had to pivot and turn like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, and we figured that each time. So yes, I agree with you 100% wholeheartedly that just because you have been at home raising children does not mean you can't do all the things you need to do and be successful as an entrepreneur, right? Because it's just a pivot. It's just a different thing that you've had to learn to probably tackle and all the times you've been doing diapers, navigating kids, the dinner and the car. Hey, carpool. Let's not talk about that. Like having kids in multiple schools, right? And navigating the carpool in different schools. I mean, that is a challenge in itself, right?
For sure. Oh my gosh, all of it, all of it. And I know that there's been times where I've talked to my husband. I'm like, this stuff is hard. I just want to go back to just being a stay-at-home mom. So all this stuff is just challenging, but you just push through. You push through, and I think that when you're passionate about something, to me, it's like when your passions and your burdens and your skills, like when they fall in line, man, that's your sweet spot. And when you're in your sweet spot, when you know that you want to do this, like when adversity comes in so many different ways, but I want to do this. I want to keep pushing through. I may have to take shifts on, just different things here and there, but I'm going to keep going up. I don't want to quit this one. And I know I'm not. Like, I know that I'm going to push through because it all comes from that heart of what I went through and how I want to help them. And I just know it's just timing and just diligence, determination. So.
Yeah, and you guys have 15 kids blended now, so you are like the mom. I mean, you are doing it.
I mean, I don't want to say that because if he has a 7, like we have his 2 youngest,
Right.
which are 13 and 16, and they get along great with mine. And so a lot of his are older, so we don't see them. So they are in they're in the Midwest. So we don't get to see them too often, but it's not ever been those, big Christmas gatherings or Thanksgiving. I wish it'd have been nice, but there's nothing like that. So I don't have 15 ever at one sitting.
Like that. Hey, but you moved with 8, and I'm impressed with that because I have 3. And I'm telling you, like I always joke, I say, that one, like going from 1 to 2, I think is like the hardest. After that, you could probably have a bunch, right? Because you're crazy anyways, but like, yes. I just vividly have this story. I remember having my second child on my hip crying and the 4-year-olds jumping up on the island to make a tortilla, like put American cheese on a tortilla in the microwave because she had learned to cook tortillas because I was like, I am going to pull my hair out with these 2 kids. Like I got a baby on the hip. I'm trying to be a mom and I got the one climbing the counter trying to cook tortillas, but after that we got to number 3 and I was like, man, we were just crazy at that point. Like I got baby number 3, sumo crawling on the floor after baby number 2 because he wants to walk. I'm like, at that point, you just have 10, I guess. I don't know,
Well,
so I admired him. Like, yeah.
It was like that for a long time where it's like, it is. It's like I just enjoy the ride, but when they get older, it's challenging. When they're like now the high school and the college and trying to go to different games and catching everything. It's for sure hard, especially. So they're all in school now. So I've got my youngest who's 7. So he's finally in school. And so it gives my window of, typically from like 8:30 to 3, it gives me window of opportunity for me to do my stuff. But man, after that, from 3 to 9, sometimes I'm driving, which is.
You're just doing it. Being a mom. Yeah, you know what, Eileen, it's so weird because we're at the empty net stage, which is so weird because for so long, I hear you and I'm like, it was like soccer, karate, it was this every week. We would have soccer tournaments that would go from Fridays, and now it's so weird because we're like, they're all kind of out right now and they're adults and we're like, we're bored. Like one night we were like, that's the middle of her job. We're going to go up there, sit up, and she's a bartender. Like, we're going to go sit at her job and just hang out. So we show up. We're like, hey, Paige, we're coming to hang out at the bar today with you. I'm not going to drink it. I just want to offer, like, that's where we're at. It's such a weird feeling because, like we were young when we had kids. And so we never had that whole like time where we were doing like all the traveling. And now we're like in this other phase where it's like, we're back to like when we were in our early 20s, that short time, that very minimal window of time we had where we didn't have kids. And so now it's like, we can do things. And I'm like, hey, it's kind of cool. We got free time. We can change the TV when we want, and, and stuff. So I always tell you, I give people hope. It's like, you get back to that, you hear that people say the empty nesting is like great, because you're like, get to be a kid again, So,
well, that will happen for a long time with me. So.
A little ways to go. Yes, you do got a little ways. Well, you're awesome. I think it's great. I would love to know, like, as a mom doing all these things, like, what's the one thing that you do for yourself, like every day, to just be like, to maybe recharge yourself? You said you got that window where they're all gone. So, like, what's the one thing that's important to you?
Well, this is not the recharging window. But I have to get up early. Like, I don't care to. I mean, it'd be great to sleep in, but that's where I know I can have, just time, that peace and quiet. It's something about getting up at where there's no one that I have to answer to. I can work out, I could pray, I could just watch the sunrise, all those things like that is, I guess, in a sense, recharging, but that's me time. I would love to do, and then working out for sure. Like, if I can work out, that is definitely that stress reliever. And it's just, when you, like, I'm 50s also, when your body is going through those changes and that whole menopause stuff, it's like, I have to do that. Like, I need to work out, because it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle right now. If you probably know.
I feel you totally. No, and I'm with you. Yeah, I get up early too. I like that more. You get so much done in the morning when you have that little quiet time by yourself, right? Like, you get so much done, man. And it's so weird, because I don't know about you, but I was not, like, ever was a morning person. Like, my mother used to, when I was a kid, have to come in there and get me out. Like, she'd have to turn my light on to wait. And, now it's like, I set my alarm, but I really don't even need it. I just wake up. Even on the weekend, I'm like, oh, I'm going to sleep until 6 a.m. It never happened. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know what my cat's problem is, but she'll jump across us at 3:30. It's almost like clockwork. I'm like, dude, like, and then, because I know she wants to go outside, I left the door open yesterday proactively, and she still did it. I was so mad. I'm like, I need that extra, because I'll wake up between 4:30 and 5. And so I'm like, come on, like, just, shit. So she's been messing up. Right.
Your cat and mine must be in sync right now, because I just was telling someone today that last night I was like, man, I went to bed early, and I was so excited because I went to bed, and at 3 a.m. in my bed this morning, my cat comes in, starts meowing and pawing. I'm like, Eileen, you are awesome, and I applaud you for, like, all the things you're doing, and your books and your podcasts, and being a mom to all those kids, and doing it all. You're wearing the hats, you're doing it all, and I think it's great. I think that's what this is all about. The funny thing, when I started, just so you know, in the very beginning, you mentioned about when you hear starter, we're thinking of sports. When I first started this show, I've said this in several episodes, we were two ex-Mary Kay sales directors that started the show. And when we started it, it was all about empowering women. And the tagline was basically, whether you're starting a business, a brand, or a movement, we're here to talk about it. That's what we were doing. We had no idea what we were trying to do with this show. And I tell people, I've heard a lot from you about passion and all of this. This show has taken many navigations. I've co-host came and left, another one came and left, still great friends of mine, but they just went on to pursue other passions. Yeah. But this show, I put it on hold for a while, for a year, brought it back. And when I brought it back in 23, it had a little bit of the original movement, but it really became something more powerful for me. And it was really about, how do I help women, which is so weird because we have a lot of men listening to the show, but it was really about, how do I help women navigate this space, being entrepreneurs and wearing all of these hats that we're talking about right now, like being the mom, being the CEO of their family, being successful in work and life. And everything that I do with this show is really because of a lot of the lessons I've had to learn in my journey, being a mom, weathering a disease, the complexities of all of this, marriage, all of these different things. And the story is very different than yours, but a lot of it is, we have parallels in that we've gone through hard things and had to have resilience, grit to get out on the other side. And the purpose and passion in all of this. And so I love that when I can find people like you to come in here and speak these truths and talk about these things, even though the stories are different, the parallels, the resonating messages are always the same. And that is, how do we help women thrive in, relationships, money, career, our families, and most importantly, health and well-being, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the most important part. And
well,
so I thank you.
appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it was. So if our audience wants to get in touch with you, I know after listening to this, somebody's going to be like, where do I find Eileen? Where do I get her books? How do I listen to her show? All of those things. Where do you want us to send them?
I mean, Eileen Noyes on Facebook. That's the easiest. Hello at Lady Bellator. That's my brand. So Lady Bellator, just let me tell you real quick. Lady meaning royalty. So she's a daughter of God. And then Bellator is warrior in Latin. So you're royalty. So you're a princess, you're a queen, but you're a driven warrior. So you're both of those. So hello at ladybellator.com. You can watch my podcast, The Unsidelined Life. Those usually launch on Wednesdays. And yeah, just all the things, Instagram, LinkedIn, same stuff. So, my books are on Amazon.
I love it. You're awesome, Eileen. You're amazing. So keep doing your thing. I love it. I love it. Our audience, of course, you and all that you tuning into the show. We hope that you found it both inspiring and informative. And of course, if you did, you know what to do: share, like, comment. Help us keep spreading all this fabulous content. And of course, follow Eileen and get in touch with her if you need to, and that way you can keep up with what she's doing. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.